Welcome everybody to Service Drive Revolution and your Friday drive-by, a little something to think about, a little insight going into your weekend. What I want to talk about today, boys, is Corey Hart, I wear my sunglasses at night, Jeremy's impression.
Is that who I'm impressionisting now?
What's funny is you can see the camera in the reflection of your sunglasses.
Should I take them off?
But sing a little bit of your hit song for us.
No, I'm not going to sing for you guys.
At night.
So I can see.
Have you seen the new documentary on the Chicago Bulls called Last Dance on ESPN? Has anybody seen it?
I haven't seen all of it. Seen parts of it.
There's a couple interesting things in there. I think it's a great lesson in leadership for everybody to watch, because the lesson that Jordan goes through, and I've read Phil Jackson's 11 Rings, and it very much is true to the story he tells. But Jordan, before Phil Jackson became the coach, Jordan was winning the scoring title every year, but when they would get to the playoffs, Detroit would just double team him, beat him up, and he could never get to the finals and win a championship. Because, you know, the play was everybody clear out to the right and let Jordan go to the left. Well, they just have to double him and beat him. You know, the Detroit's whole thing in the playoffs was don't let him get off a shot, don't let him get to the basket. So Jordan has this image of himself of being the leading scorer in the league, but he's not winning championships, right? And he learns through the documentary how to be a leader and how to, you know, come into a system. And so when Phil Jackson becomes a head coach, he puts in a system, which is called the triangle. But it literally is a system. And the system, although Jordan didn't win the scoring title, he won tons, 6 championships after that. And it was all attributed to that. So the first lesson in there is understanding how to deal with a high-performing player, but how to put a system in place and create consistencies and win championships, not just scoring titles, right? And then the second one is how Phil Jackson managed those high performers in Dennis Rodman. So there's a part in there where Pippen was out and they're in their last season, and Pippen's in a contract dispute with the team, and he'd had surgery on his leg, and he kind of like did the surgery late so he didn't have to play. And it's just Jordan and Pippen really steps up. Pippen kind of blew a game, and he came to Jordan's hotel room and said, like, hey, do you have a cigar? And Jordan's like, yeah. And they smoked a cigar. They never talked about Pippen's overreaction and, costing him the game. But from there on out, they were on the same page, and they started winning even without Pippen. But then when Pippen came back, Rodman kind of felt a little slighted because he wasn't the number one guy to Jordan anymore. It was back to the threesome. And so Phil Jackson called, and so one thing that I thought was really interesting is Phil Jackson calls in Jordan, and Rodman is there, and he says to Jordan, he says, Rodman needs a vacation. And this is mid-season. And Jordan's like, well, I need a vacation. Like, what are you talking about? We're mid-season. We're all tired. We're all beat up. And he goes, yeah, well, I'm thinking about letting him go for 48 hours to Vegas, just, blow it out. And Jordan says, if you let him go I think in the documentary it's 24 hours. He's going to let him go for 24 hours or 48 hours, something like that. And Jordan says, no, he won't come back. Like, it won't be 48 hours. And Phil lets him go. And so Rodman hops on a plane. He flies to Vegas, and he just, legendary party in Vegas, and he doesn't come back. So he's in Vegas partying, doesn't come back. And so guess who gets him? Yeah, Jordan hops on a private jet, goes to Vegas, knocks on his hotel room. Like, I wonder, how does Jordan get what room he's in, all that? And Carmen Electra, who was dating him at the time, is like, she hid behind a couch because she didn't want to be embarrassed because it was Jordan. But Jordan drags his ass, and they show Rodman coming back to practice in flip-flops, following Jordan into the arena. But that's leadership. Like, he didn't sit around and complain, hey, Phil, I told you he wasn't going to come back and this is BS and blah. No, he hopped on a plane, he went, grabbed him by the ear, and drug him back. That's leadership. And the other part that I think is fascinating is Kobe is talking in there, the late Kobe Bryant, which is sad in and of itself. But Kobe says, you know, people say, like, who would win in a one-on-one between you and Jordan? And he says, you don't understand. I wouldn't be here and I wouldn't have won 5 championships if it wasn't for Jordan's mentorship on how to lead a team. Like, you know, Phil put Jordan with him, and in 11 Rings, Phil talks about it, but there's a leadership thing that Jordan was a player on a team and he still was the leader. And so leadership doesn't have to have a title. You don't have to be the coach to be the leader. Jordan was leading in the locker room. Same thing. Kobe learned how to lead in the locker room and set a tempo and an expectation and an image of the team of what is expected and how they handle, you know, different scenarios and hard times. But it's a great documentary. But those are the lessons I took away. I know you were there living in Chicago during all that, right, Christian?
Yeah. So the thing that just kind of hit me as you were talking is that up until they won the championships, we always talked about Jordan and the scoring titles. And the funny thing is that once they started winning, no one ever talked about his scoring titles anymore because it never mattered. Yeah. It was all about 3 rings, 3-peat, championship, everything like that. And I can tell you that I've never seen its equal in my life of the way that one man transformed an area like that. Like he affected everybody's lives, and like he transcended sports, transcended basketball. And he was he didn't just lead that team. He led the entire Chicago area. Like, it was absolutely crazy. I feel pretty fortunate that I got to be a part of it during that, but there was a ton of great memories from that time period.
Yeah. Never really anything like that since, honestly.
No. So here's what's interesting, because when you talk about the service drive, service advisors, your top performers are typically strong performers and strong personalities, and they're really focused on themselves and what they're going to get out of the month, right? Like who's the top dog, who's selling the most. But at the same time, that can have a detrimental effect for the team and the overall CSI score for the dealership or for the shop. So I think there's some valuable lessons for strong personalities and lead people to go in and learn how to become a better team player and achieve more through the team, even though you may not always get that personal, pat on the back or that number one status. That's, at the end of the day, what I remember at all the dealerships I worked at, even though I fought super hard to be the best salesperson, to put up the biggest numbers, was always those good relationships with my teammates that stayed. The guys I still stay in touch with 20 years ago, we have this bond because we were on the front lines together. And if I put down one of the advisors to make myself look better or to sell more, stepped over them, it wasn't necessarily, and here we go with being fair, but there's plenty of opportunity out there. Instead of trying to be better than everybody else or sell more, if I could go back, I would learn how to be a better leader and help them achieve more through some of the skills that I had. I could have learned from them as well, and we all could have achieved more. We all could have hit, the 6-figure annual income together, and how much more fun would that have been rather than making just a little bit more myself. So there's some great lessons in there for advisors, because we're strong personalities and we want to dominate. We want to crush the competition, but at the same time, we need to learn how to lead better. Absolutely.
Yeah, you don't have to have the title, right?
Sometimes you do, though.
Really?
I'm sorry. I had to throw that out there, man. I'm sorry. I had to make people laugh.
Everything we just did, you just took it away.
That's pretty crazy.
I didn't.
You know what's funny, though, is that, obviously I said a little while ago that I was from Illinois originally, and I know that you have a theory about people from outside of California, but what is the similarity between my driving and the coronavirus?
It's all over the place.
Hold on. I want to guess one of these. What is the similarity between your driving and the coronavirus?
It's all over the place.
Is that the answer?
No. I was letting you have your moment. I'm distracted.
Wait, you were letting me stew in my own laughter there?
Yeah, I dare you. It was great.
What's the difference?
I'm also distracted too because Jeremy actually is. is I'm kind of looking at you with the way that the earbuds come out. You almost look like the creepy Boy Scout leader. And I don't know why I can't get over that, but the difference, the similarity between myself and my driving in the coronavirus is that it's funny at first and then it just gets really scary.
That's good.
It's really
well,
scary.
On that note, you guys, hope that inspires something. I'd check out that documentary. It's called The Last Dance on ESPN. It's a great lesson in leadership. Have a good weekend, and we'll see you again. Here's a preview of what's coming up on the big show Monday.
Next week on Service Drive Revolution.
We are actually filming this on Cinco de Mayo. I look like a crazy homeless person. People just walk up to me on the street and hand me money.
I took a blue mask and I drew all these teeth on it. And it looks like, and people crack up when they come in.
How you do anything is how you do everything.
Chris, you don't understand.
There's a traffic jam at your closet?
IT still hasn't fixed the wormhole that you come through every week.
Look at you falling on your cross. Okay.
Oh, that hurt.
I don't know. Don't I just rant anyways? Isn't that kind of my style? If you described my style, wouldn't you just describe it as rant?
And if management won't get on board with your dreams, save your money and go get your own store.
Bro, none of these advisors were working on cars. Their fingernails, they wouldn't even work on their mountain bike if it broke. Trust me.
Hey, Chris, how are you today? Who are you sending? I can't hear you. What's his name? Hey, Mary, they're sending a guy out to pick up the car.
Thanks for watching this episode of Service Drive Revolution's Drive-By. I hope it gives you something to think about over the weekend and inspires some new ideas and hopefully some new results. If you have any questions for the big show, go ahead and post them below in the comments. We'll be looking out for them and we'll answer them on the show. Make sure you subscribe and hit the bell icon so you're notified when we post new episodes. I'm Chris Collins, and you can find me on Facebook and Instagram at Chris Bulldog Collins. And I'll see you again on the next episode.